Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I thought we'd make a fun easel card. We're going to be using some products from Lawn Fawn. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be using the soft finish cardstock in the 100-pound weight from Elizabeth Craft Designs. And this has a nice sort of a suede finish on one side and a smooth finish on the other. So we're going to be cutting this cardstock 4 1/4 by 11 inches. And then I'm going to cut a second panel that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. So this will be a standard A2 size card. So we're going to make a couple scores in this piece here. So first off, we're going to score this at 5 1/2, which is what we would normally do for a top folding card. And then we're going to score it again at 2.75 or 2 3/4 inches. So now I'm going to go ahead and fold this in half. So that would be your standard A2 size top folding card. And I'm just going to grab my bone folder here and just press that crease out. And then for the second fold, we're going to fold that towards the center of the inside of the card. And we're going to press that out as well. So that's going to form the little easel portion of our card there. And that panel, the other panel that we cut, is going to sit right on the front there to create this easel. So now I'm going to take my Petite paper pack in the watercolor, and I'm going to be using 3 of these colors, the blue, the green, and kind of that teal blue color. Now with this teal blue color, I'm going to be die cutting the stitched cloud backdrop. This is the portrait version, and this is from Lawn Fawn, and it's going to die cut these cute little stitched clouds. I'm taping that down with a little bit of washi tape, and then I'm going to die cut the water from the Bayou backdrop set. And this is also from Lawn Fawn, and I'm going to be cutting 2 of these out of the blue cardstock, and then 2 also from some white Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. And then for this green panel, I've cut 2 pieces at 4 1/4 inches wide. And one is about 1 1/2 inches tall, and the other is about 2 inches tall. I'm going to be using my Grassy Hillside border dies, and I'm just going to select a couple of these and tape these down on these 2 panels. And any 2 that you select will be fine. So now I'm going to go ahead and take that other piece of green paper, and I'm going to die cut this frame. This is the outside in stitched rectangle stackable frame, and this is the largest one. I'm also going to tape this down with a little bit of washi tape. And then I'm going to go ahead and run that through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine. And you can see that it die cuts that beautiful stitched border. I'm also going to run these 2 grassy borders through. And these are going to get lined up one in front of the other here. And then for the stitched cloud backdrop, I'm going to run that through as well, and you can see how cute that is. Now again, I'm going to die cut 2 of the water out of the blue and 2 out of the 100-pound Bristol Smooth cardstock. So I'm using my Lawn Fawn glue tube, and I'm going to place glue all over the back of the blue panel, and I'm going to glue these 2 together. And this is just going to give a little bit more substance to that water there, and you'll see why we need that a little bit later. So now taking that 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panel, I'm going to place some tape all around it, and I'm just putting the tape on the smooth side of the paper. And that will leave that suede-y side facing sort of the back of the card to finish it off. So again, by gluing these 2 panels together, that'll give a little bit of weight to this pop-up section of the card. So now I have, this is kind of how the layout will be here, the 2 little grassy borders and then the water down at the bottom. Now for the water, I want to cut a straight edge along the bottom there. And those 2 are going to be butting up against each other. So that's going to form the little pop-up section of the easel. So I'm placing these in my Tim Holtz tonic trimmer, and I'm just cutting from the longest point here. So I just want a straight edge right across the bottom at the longest point. And I'm going to do that for both of these. So again, you can see those two will butt up right against each other here. Now I'm going to take my Distress Oxide ink in the Salty Ocean, and I'm just going to add a little bit of a shadow there around the edges of this pond. And I'm going to do that for both of these pieces. And I don't want to put any down the middle because that's going to be the center of our pond and we want it to be the lightest there. So now again with the Lucky Clover Distress Oxide ink, I'm just going to add a little bit of a shadowing here at the top of this grassy border. And I'm going to do that for both pieces. So now you can see how this is all going to line up right along the bottom edge here. So I'm going to go ahead and tape these down. I'm using my 1/4 inch Scor-tape. And I'm just going to start attaching these to my front panel. And I decided to just fluff up the grass a little bit here on both of these, just to give it a little bit more dimension. And then for this one here, I'm not going to place tape all the way up to the top because I am going to be tucking something in there a little bit later. So I'm going to remove the backing and then line that one up again at the bottom of this panel. And then for the water, I just want to make sure I have plenty of tape on here again because it is going to be part of the easel portion of the card. So I want to make sure that it's nice and secure. So I just put tape all the way across and I'm just trimming off that excess. I'm removing the backing of the tape and I'm again going to line that up at the bottom here as well. Now I have two little pieces that stick off the side there, so I'm just going to trim those away. And that panel is going to sit right on the front here of our card. And that will form the little pop-up section. So for the inside of the card, we have this green panel that we die cut. And we're going to place tape all on the back of that and center this on the inside of the card. Now I went ahead and stamped all of my little images. But I did want to show you where they came from. From the Toadally Awesome Lawn Fawn stamp set, I stamped the little frogs, the cattails, the little dragonflies, the lily pads, the flowers, and that little log. And I have the coordinating dies as well. And then from this set here, which is called the Elphie Selfie set, I'm going to be stamping that little birthday cake. And then from this set, which is called Wild for You, I'm going to be stamping the two little party hats. And this next one is called Home for the Holidays, and I'm going to be stamping that little set of packages there. From the Bicycle Built for You set, I'm going to be stamping those balloons. And I went ahead and grabbed the dies for all of these stamps, and I'm going to place these down with a little bit of washi tape. And then I'm going to go ahead and run these through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine. So now that I have all of these little pieces die cut, I'm going to go ahead and start to color them. And I'm going to be using my Tombow markers. These are water-based markers. And that's the blender pen. And I'm also going to be using 3 shades of green, 195, 249, and 277. So it's kind of a light, medium, and a dark green. So I'm going to start off by just making sure that my blender pen is clean. And I'm going to apply a little bit of that blender fluid first. And then I'm going to start with my lightest green. I'm going to take my blender pen and I'm going to start to blend that out a little bit. I'm using a little bit of a circular motion here, just sort of bringing that in towards the center to keep the center of the face the lightest. And then I'm going to come in with that mid green and just add a little bit of color there. And the same kind of technique, just kind of in a circular motion, I'm going to bring that in towards the center. And if you get too much ink on your blender pen, you can just remove it on your scrap paper and then come back in and continue coloring. And you'll know the blender pen is clean once it goes clear. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the back here. I'm just going to add a little bit of that color, and then I'm going to come in and add some shadow there. And again, these are water-based dual tip markers. So on one end you have like a brush tip, and on the other end you have like a bullet tip. So these are really nice and they're really easy to blend together. Now using number 249, which is the darkest green, I'm going to be using the bullet tip. And I'm just going to color those 3 little dots on his back there. And then taking 723, which is a pink, I'm just going to add a little bit of pink to his cheeks. Then I'm going to go ahead, I'll show you on camera this little one here that I colored in, and the third one I will do off camera. So I'm basically going to do the same thing here for him. I did want to say also that I used the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock to do all my stamping on. And then I also used the Versafine Onyx Black ink pad, which is a permanent black ink to do the stamping. The only thing I did differently for this little one was for his little tummy area, I used 991, which is kind of like a butterscotch color. And then I shadowed that with a little bit of 993. And I just added that sort of towards the bottom area. And then I went back to my blender pen and just blended those two together. Just making sure your blender is clean. So now using 990 and 977, which is kind of a tan and a little bit of a medium brown, I'm going to go ahead and color in this log. So I'm going to lay down a little bit of that blender fluid first, and then come in with the tan, and then come in with that medium brown. And I do apologize here, the lighting, the sunlight was coming through the window, and I was so engrossed in this, I guess I didn't realize that. So it will get better here in a second. But I just continued to blend this out until I got kind of a nice shadowing here. So now for these 2 little cattails, I just applied the lighter tan color first, same 2 colors I used on the log, and then a little bit of the darker color at the top and the bottom, and then I just pulled those towards the center. Now I am going to be adding a little bit of texture to these in a second with my black gel pen. So and then I finished out coloring the greenery with the same greens that we used earlier, just the light green and a little bit of a medium green here. And I just blended those 2 out as well. So before I wanted to use the gel pen, I made sure that I heat set these really well. I'm coming in with my black Jelly Roll gel pen, and I'm just going to add some little dots on there just to add a little bit more texture. And then I'll let those dry. Now I'm going back to 173, which is that kind of lime green, and I'm going to color in these lily pads. I'm basically just putting the color right along the little dotted portion and then pulling it out towards the edges, just keeping the lightest portion along the edges there. And then for these little flowers, I'm going to be using 725, which is like a hot pink, and 723, which is that pale pink again, or like a bubblegum pink. I'm starting with the lighter pink, adding a little bit of that darker down towards the centers of the flowers, and then I'm just going to use the blender and blend that out. So I did the same thing for both of those flowers. Now using 800 and 723, which are 2 shades of pink, I'm going to do the frosting on the cake. Again, just adding a little bit of shading there, and then using the blender and blending that together. And then for the candles, I'm using 025 and 925, which is a light yellow and sort of a mustard yellow. And then for the candles, I'm using 603, which is a lavender color. And then for the cake, I'm using 912 and 990, two shades of like a beigey tan color. And then I just colored in these little packages with a variety of the colors that we had already used. And then for these two little party hats, I used 991 and 725, which is kind of a yellow and a hot pink. And then for these little dragonflies, I used 991 and 603, which is a lavender and a yellow color. And I just put a little of the lavender down first and then added the yellow. And then for these balloons, I'm going to be using 723 and 725 for this first one, which is a light pink and the darker pink. And I'm really just going to add the color right around the edges there. And then I'm going to pull it in towards the center. So I'm going to kind of pull in from the left side and then from the right side and keep that center part of the balloon the lightest. And I did the same thing for all three of these balloons. And here I used 603 and 606, which are a light lavender and a darker lavender. And then for this last one, I used 991 and 993, which is again that butterscotch yellow and a little bit more of a mustardy yellow color. So now we have all of our little elements colored in. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this log. And I'm just going to tuck it in behind this first little section of grass here. And we're building a little birthday party scene here with all our little tiny elements. And I'm going to tuck these little cattails in there as well. And then I'm going to place that little lily pad in the center of our pond. And then for this little frog, I'm going to attach the balloons kind of behind his foot there. And I'm going to let that dry for a second, and then we'll go back to that in a minute. For the little birthday cake, I'm going to pop that up with a little tiny bit of photo mounting tape. And then for the little frog, I'm going to place that party hat on with a little bit of glue. And then I'm also going to pop that up with a little bit of the foam mounting tape as well. Doing the same thing here for the little party presents, just to give it a little bit of dimension. And again for the little flower. Now going back to my little frog with the balloons, I'm going to place some foam mounting tape all over the back of this. And then I'm just going to attach that to my card. So he's going to kind of look like he's either floating into the party or out of the party, however you want to think of it. And then for the little dragonflies, I'm just going to add a few here and there. And I'm using my Tim Holtz pick tool just to kind of press those down into place. And I'm popping up the wings on these a little bit just by folding them in the center. And then I'm only putting glue down the center of those. Now this is a Spectrum Noir sparkle pen, and this is the crystal clear. And I'm just going to add a little clear glitter sparkle to my balloons. And you do want to clean it off when you're changing colors. You don't want to transfer that color to the other balloon. And then I'm going to put a little bit on my little dragonflies here. And my little party hats. And some of the ribbons on the gifts here. And the frosting on my cake. And the candles. So you can see that adds just a little bit of sparkle there. So now we want to attach this panel to the front of the card. So I want to put tape on that from that score line down to the bottom. So I want to make sure I fill it in with plenty of score tape, and I want to make sure I'm right along the edge of that top of that score line there. This is going to sit right, this panel, I'm lining it up down at that bottom edge, and that's going to sit right there on that bottom edge. So when the card folds up, it will be like a pop-up. Now we need to create the easel portion for the card. So that's where the second piece of the water comes in. So, but first I decided I want to stamp my sentiment. So I'm going to stamp "Have a Totally Awesome Birthday." I've gone ahead and lined that up in my Misty stamp positioner. And I'm just going to stamp that. And I've already kind of determined where I want it to be, but I'm double checking it here. Just want to make sure that where the easel portion is going to be, I want it just below that. So I'm inking up my stamp using the versafine onyx black ink pad. Now you could have done the stamping for this before you attach that front panel. I didn't think of it and it worked out just fine, but I did place it in the Misty just in case I had a problem and had to restamp it. I figured after I had done all that work, I didn't want to have to redo anything. So I went ahead and stamped it, and it was perfectly fine the first stamping. So now I want to place the second part of the water on. So I'm going to pop this up with some foam mounting tape, and I want to make sure I have it edge to edge here. And I want to make sure this is perfectly straight on my card so that when my card is open, it sits perfectly straight. So I'm using my T ruler to create that straight line, and I'm lining it up right along that T ruler, and then I'm going to cut away this excess. And you can see now that creates the little easel there. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my other little lily pad, sorry. And I'm going to add that here. And I'm going to add the little tiny flower. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the little party hat on this frog. And then in order to get this to lay flat, I'm going to put a little foam mounting tape on the bottom section, and I'm just going to put glue up at the top where the party hat is, just so it lays nice and flush. So now I've decided to go back to that black Jelly Roll pen, and I'm just going to darken the eyes just a little bit here. I'm going to do the same thing for the inside. And then to do the little tails on the balloons, I wanted it to look like it was wrapped around his ankle. So I just drew a line across the ankle there, and then a couple little strings hanging down. And you do want to make sure you let that gel pen dry completely before you touch it. And there you can see that that makes a cute little easel. And I'm going to go ahead and just finish adding my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen here. I decided to add a little bit to the flowers here. So there you can see the easel pop up there. And this just makes the cutest little card. I think this is a fun little birthday card. And again, when it lays flat, it does fit in a standard A2 size envelope. And you can sign up above there, up above the water on the inside of the card. You have plenty of room to just sign it or write a little sentiment in there. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to visit me at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. Thank you so much for visiting and have a great day. Bye-bye.